Gently placing Shen Wuyi into the healing profound array, Shen Yulan cast a simple isolating barrier. A soft, profound light gathered at her fingertips, then slowly flowed into that frail body. But the moment she touched her, the supposedly unconscious Shen Wuyi slowly opened her eyes. She even tried to push herself up, her movements weak, yet filled with stubborn resolve. Wuyi, Shen Yulan hurriedly leaned forward, supporting Wuyi's upper body. Don't move, calm your mind. The sovereign no longer intends to punish you. But Shen Wuyi did not close her eyes. Instead, she spoke with a voice as light as a breeze brushing silk. She just obtained the Abyssshart vine, and I'm this gravely injured. Her attention isn't here. The Pure Land's gaze isn't on this place either. Shen Yulan understood her meaning. She wanted to tell her that no matter what it was, it could wait. But knowing her temperament, and knowing she would never force herself like this unless it was absolutely crucial, Yulan quietly lowered her head and leaned closer to her lips. All right, speak. Wu Yi's bloodless lips parted slightly, and she murmured words like a dream whisper. In the breath of heaven and earth, all things are refined. Man and woman in true pairing, heaven and earth set in order. Shen Yulan jerked her head up, shock flooding her face. It took several breaths before she finally calmed the turmoil in her heart, lowering her voice. Wu Yi, you've recovered your memories. Those unfocused, weakened moonlit eyes stared straight into hers. So that marriage contract, it truly exists. Shen Yulan froze, momentarily at a loss. She lowered her posture and voice even further, the latter trembling slightly. Who told you those words? In the divine slumber forbidden domain, what exactly did you encounter? Shen Wuyi slowly raised her hand, with great difficulty placing her fingers onto the back of Yulan's hand, showing her resolve. If you have it, then show it to me now, show me now. Her life force was hanging by a thread, consciousness held together purely by will, yet she repeated now twice. Shen Yulan's expression grew complicated, and her brief hesitation was no different from an admission. She had just opened her mouth when Wu Yi's faint whisper interrupted her again. It determines my fate. Shen Yulan had never seen her display such stubborn insistence. She could no longer delay. Gritting her teeth, she reached into her spatial storage. Moments later, she took out a 1-foot-long abyssal crystal, emanating dense abyssal energy. With a practiced motion, the crystal split apart, its interior hollowed out with meticulous care. From within, Shen Yulan carefully removed a jade scroll. Upon its surface were inscribed the first 3 seals of the Pure God Seal. As the core profound art of the eternal night god realm, it was only natural for it to be hidden with such extreme caution. But as Shen Yulan exhaled a thread of profound energy, the jade slip shattered in utter silence. From its fragments drifted torn pieces of blood-stained paper. With a sweep of her palm, the scattered scraps halted midair and rearranged themselves in perfect order. In mere moments, they formed a tattered crimson document, 7/10 soaked in dried blood, yet every character remained piercingly clear. Most striking of all were the 2 characters at the top, marriage contract. They burned so vividly into Shen Wuyi's vision that even her blurred, unfocused eyes sharpened for an instant. No one had ever known the immense risk Shen Yulan took to hide this marriage contract, because she understood that it was Shen Wuyi's only remaining proof of her lost past. A strange, indescribable light rippled through Shen Wuyi's fading eyes, and the words engraved on that document sank directly into her heart, exactly the same as Yun Qi had recited to her inside the forbidden domain. At the bottom of the contract, she saw the names Zhao Qi and Zia Qingyu. She saw their birth characters, and beneath them, 2 deep, complete fingerprints. Her trembling hand lifted the piece of torn sleeve Yun Qi had left behind. Even through her clouded vision, the fingerprint stained upon it aligned perfectly with the one on the marriage contract. And overlapping the 2 was her own, the ring upon her right index finger matching flawlessly with the delicate print beneath the name Zia Qingyu. The moonlight within her eyes quivered violently. Her fingers curled unconsciously. This is my past, so I was not someone without origin. I was not a drifting, rootless soul, Zia Qingyu. That was my name, my true name, Kangfeng Ligun, a surname that does not exist in this world. A homeland that does not exist in this world. Yun Qi, Zhao Qi, homeland, then I ain't. She closed her eyes, her voice light as a dream murmur. Erase the traces, her hand fell limp. Her consciousness finally sank into silence. Shen Yulan gently lowered her, then swiftly stored away both the marriage contract and the torn sleeve, hiding them once more within the abyssal crystal's aura. But her heart was already in a state of turmoil. its waves unable to settle. Years ago, when she had found Shen Wuyi drifting within the Mist Sea, it was this very marriage contract that told her Wuyi was not a native of this world, and that she likely came from the eternal Pure Land. For in this world, neither Kangfeng Ligun nor the surname Xia existed at all. Yet she also understood, if this secret were ever exposed, Wuyi's fate would be stripped of all freedom. Out of compassion, she hid it, intending to return it once Wuyi had healed. But before she could, Shen Waiyanai discovered Wuyi's 9 profound, exquisite body, forcing her to become the eternal night divine daughter. To Shen Waiulan, that fate was far more tragic than the revelation of her origin. And so, toward Shen Wuyi, she carried a guilt that she could never speak aloud. She never expected that this secret, one she had guarded so cautiously, would be suddenly revealed by Wuyi herself in such a completely unforeseen moment. She could not predict what kind of final outcome this abrupt shift in fate would lead to. But no matter what it became, the eternal night god realm could never grow darker or more hopeless than it already was. Yun Qi had spent a long time healing himself. His wounds and profound energy had recovered more than half. He had intentionally dragged out the process, yet in Hua Kaylee's eyes, it was still unbelievably fast. No wonder its light, profound energy, it feels even stronger than before. Resting against Yun Qi's shoulder, she said with a bright smile, "Aunt warned me earlier that people who can cultivate light, profound energy always have especially pure and kind hearts. She told me not to bully you just because you spoil me too much. I feel like Aunt treats you almost better than she treats me, Though her words sounded a little jealous, her voice was filled with nothing but pure joy. Yun Qi smiled. "All the kindness your aunt shows me is because of you and for your sake." He stood up, stretching his upper body. "All right, we should head back." "Okay." Hua Kaylee put away her Leon sword and murmured. This divine slumber-forbidden domain was described as some mysterious, unfathomable place. I thought it would be full of strange wonders and special opportunities, but it's actually no different from the Fog Sea, just with more abyssal ghosts. Yun Qi said, "Since it's a place where gods fell, it probably did hold many divine remnants in the past. But this place belongs to the Pure Land. Whatever divine relics originally existed here must have been nearly wiped clean after countless searches. Otherwise, they wouldn't have opened it to the god realm so generously." Hua Kaylee nodded vigorously. Exactly. I still don't understand why that awful Shen Wuyi asked for such a weird reward." As she said that, she suddenly remembered. It seemed the Abyss Emperor still owed her a favor. Yun Qi flicked his hand, and the shattered, void-breaking divine jade he had discarded earlier flew back into his fingers. Hua Kaylee's eyes widened, and she asked without thinking, "Brother Yun, when you were in danger earlier, why didn't you use the void-breaking divine jade right away? Did that Shen Wuyi sneak attack you when you weren't looking?" Yun Qi opened his mouth, ready to answer. But suddenly, something flashed through his mind, and his expression changed drastically. "Oh no," he abruptly turned around and shot back into the distant abyssal mist. Brother Yun!" Hua Kaylee cried out in alarm and quickly followed after him. But Yun Qi didn't slow down at all. The aura around him grew increasingly tense, tinged with a deep, rising anxiety. Only after a long while did Yun Qi finally stop. The abyssal mist ahead was so thick it felt suffocating. A gray, gaping maw of the abyss yawned open on the ground, exuding a terrifying aura that made the soul tremble. "This is the Death Abyss." Hua Kaylee stepped to Yun Qi's side, murmuring in astonishment. This was also the first time she had ever witnessed, with her own eyes, the legendary Death Abyss said to exist only in the deepest parts of the Mist Sea. Yun Qi extended his hand, palm facing the chasm. His profound energy and soul aura surged continuously, gradually tinged with a hint of dread and agitation. "Brother Yun, what exactly happened?" Hua Kaylee asked anxiously. Yun Qi's fingers slowly curled inward. He let out a long breath, his voice carrying a trace of strain. "Earlier, when I was surrounded by several abyssal ghosts, the Yunli sword slipped and fell into it." "Ah," Hua Kaylee gasped, finally understanding the reason behind his panic. "The Yunli sword is connected to my soul aura, but now I can't sense its existence at all." Yun Qi's voice tried to remain calm, yet still leaked a grief he could no longer suppress. "Even in danger, I didn't choose to escape immediately because I was afraid I'd never recover the Yunli sword. But it seems—" Hua Kaylee parted her lips, unsure how to comfort him. All she could do was lean closer against him. Once something fell into the Death Abyss, it returned to nothingness. This truth accompanied every record ever written about it. Yun Qi exhaled softly, withdrew his hand, and then forced a relieved smile, instead consoling her. Since it's come to this, it's fine. Master always said, gaining is fortune, losing is fate. He definitely won't blame me. Let's go. The two Void-Shatter Jades shattered at the same time, taking Yun Qi and Hua Kaylee out of the divine slumber forbidden domain. At the instant their figures vanished, in the ever-silent death abyss, it was as if an ancient demonic chant echoed faintly, then disappeared into the dim abyssal mist. That is our homeland, not their eternal pure land. If those of the abyss ever set foot there, every living being in our homeland will become lambs to the slaughter. You think of yourself as cold and selfish only because your body and soul both reject this world. You are Xia Qingyu, the Empress of the eternal pure land. I need your help. No matter what, you must stop them. Shen Wuyi jolted awake. Sitting up abruptly, intense pain swept through her entire body in an instant, but she clenched her jade teeth, not letting even the faintest whimper escape. The surroundings were silent. No one was nearby, only the healing formation continued its quiet operation. Her five senses quickly regained clarity. She rose slowly, stepped outside, and stood upon the pure land, gazing into the distant sky. A cool breeze swept past, lifting her black robes. The dried blood on the hem had darkened into faint stains, like smeared crimson on an inkwash painting, broken yet hauntingly beautiful. Her face was pale as frost and snow, her lips drained of color, only her long, butterfly-wing lashes casting a faint shadow across that porcelain pallor. A lingering trace of abyssal corrosion still clung to her, forming a thin gray mist around her body, making her seem like a fallen star fading in the night, cold, solitary, yet trembling with a breathtaking, tragic grace. Her gaze drifted far toward the pure white horizon. The icy sharpness once housed in her eyes had melted away, leaving only a deep and silent stillness. The breeze rose again, brushing loose strands against her cheek, lifting the fine hairs at her brow. Yet she remained oblivious, her thoughts already wandering through fragmented memories and the uncertain road ahead. Kingfeng Ligun, the Xia clans. Qingyu homeland, Empress. Yunqi Zio Qi. She stood upon the immaculate pure land bathed in flawless heavenly light, yet it felt as though boundless night mist was coiling around her lonely silhouette, rendering her all the colder and more isolated beneath the vast sky. It's true, everything he said. All of it is true, her eyes closed slowly. In the sea of her soul, what surfaced was once again that gaze, thick with tenderness and unwavering resolve. Her fingers tightened softly, and in her palms she could still feel the fading warmth of that blood-stained sleeve. Her body and soul had always rejected this world in silent instinct. But that man, he was the one her senses and soul were now reaching toward, drawn to, compelled by, her eyes opened, rippling with a fragile, breathtaking shimmer. Yet within her soul's sea, his voice echoed still. I am probably the most afraid of death in this world, because if I die, if one day you regain your memories, the pain would break you. And if I die, my homeland, our homeland, will be forever swallowed by an irreparable, unstoppable abyss. Her hand moved to her chest on its own, feeling her wildly unsteady heartbeat. Even the heavy darkness she had long carried seemed to be rapidly scattered by that voice. And I, just a mere divine master, must within only 40-odd years stop the next opening of the void-breaking array. For that, I must use any means necessary. 40 years. It must be stopped when the path ahead is shrouded in confusion. Then listen to the voice of the heart, for it is the clearest, most flawless guiding light. She suddenly turned. When her gaze fixed forward again, it had returned to that fathomless, icy depth. Since that is the case, the final page of the secret canon must be unveiled ahead of time. Then, Shen Waiyanai, I permit you to repay your debt early. As soon as Yun Qi and Hua Kaylee stepped out of the void-breaking array, Meng Jiangxi approached immediately. After carefully examining Yun Qi, he let out a quiet sigh of relief. It seems you encountered quite the fierce battle, but thankfully you're unharmed. Yun Qi blinked, briefly surprised, then quickly understood. He gave Meng Jiangxi a faint smile, everything clear without needing to be said. Hua Kaylee, however, immediately spotted Dugu Zhaiyuan waiting nearby and exclaimed in surprise, Uncle Dugu, weren't you supposed to be fighting with Ant on the primordial upper heaven? The shortest battle you two ever had still lasted 3 days. This time, don't tell me it's already over. Dugu Zhaiyuan suddenly released a sigh filled with obscure meaning, his expression layered with complexity. His reaction caused even Yun Qi to become interested, and he spoke casually as though offhand. Don't tell me, Ant, that Sword Immortal Senior was delayed by something. Dugu Zhaiyuan looked at them, hesitated for a moment, and finally said, This time is my final battle with the sword immortal. After this, there will be no more battles. Eh? Hua Kaylee stared in confusion. Why? But Dugu Zhaoyuan only shook his head, offering no explanation. The divine son Yuan is injured. Go and rest for now. Though filled with questions, Hua Kaylee didn't press further and left with Yun Qi. Only after they were far away did Dugu Zhaoyuan release a long, drawn-out sigh. His voice drifted from his lips in a dazed whisper. So that is why she bears the name Sword Immortal. Not because she can only be a sword immortal, but because she is willing to be nothing except the sword immortal. To forcefully suppress her worldly desires, all for Kaylee. In this lifetime, I am destined never to compare, never to reach her. Updated and recorrected by Leo.